Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 116 of ASBN Live. I'm Tulasi Sivalingam, the manager of events and programming, and I'm grateful to our partner GoodCarts for bringing together these incredible panelists who are bringing together economic empowerment and e-commerce. It's now my pleasure to turn it over to Stephen Cliff from GoodCarts, who will introduce them.
Well, thank you very much, ASBN. We love working with you on these shared events and love connecting with the community you bring to these events. I'm really honored to be here with Kyle, Jessica, and Amanda, and you're going to see Mya here in a moment to talk about the topic of economic empowerment and e-commerce. And I have a little agenda for everyone just to kind of get us on the same page, if you will. This is the welcome. It's going to be followed by an interview with Mya Beaudry, and she's the founder and CEO of Kokom Scrunchies. And I'm not going to go any more detail except to say Kyle is going to be doing the interview there, and that's recorded, so you may have to turn your audio up a little bit during that session or part of the session, but really encourage you to enjoy that. And then we're having a panel discussion. So we're going to learn about 1 million Black businesses, 1 MBB, about the Shopify Build Native project, and about the Good Market. And really feel free as we go along to use that little Q&A button and put your questions in along the way as we go. Felicity will help monitor that, and I will jump in as well. And we're going to pull those questions in pretty early in the discussion, and so do that. The other thing I'll note is that, you know, the events that we've been involved with ASBN, we know you guys like to chat, right? So like, you are liberated. Say hello in the chat. Share your links, LinkedIn, Instagram, your brand if you're a retailer that's involved in the space. If you're involved in an economic development organization, share resources, share links along the way. It really enriches the whole engagement. You can even talk about us while we're chatting about the topic, whatever you like. Now, one thing we also like to do, this is on a separate link, but we will host a networking session. And whether there's 5 of us there or 20 of us there or 50 of us there, all that matters is the people who show up and have a chance to meet each other, to continue discussion about the topic, give a shout out about your project, and it will be live on video with Zoom. So the Zoom is linked from goodcarts.co/live, and we'll share that in the link. One of Lynn Myorka from GoodCarts will be in the chat there from time to time, help answering any questions you have there. And then this is not about GoodCarts. I will give you one slide to explain it in a moment here, but we do a demo at the end of those networking sessions for the final folks that are interested in hanging out. Of course, at any time, folks can go to goodcarts.co/demo and check it out on demand. And this is your word from your sponsor. And so in this case, GoodCarts has been working with a lot of these organizations that are going to be on the stage today. And we're a network of now actually 400 members across different circles of goodness, if you will. We started off with our Sustainable Shop for Good network with 150 brands that are essentially cross-promoting each other post-checkout. And we have a BIPOC-owned circle now, a Black-owned circle, which I'll mention more about later, and even Made in USA, and many more. And so the whole idea is we grow together by sharing our traffic post-checkout. So that's all you hear about GoodCarts in detail, unless you come join the networking session afterwards. All right, so we're going to jump in now to the interview. And so we're going to push play and encourage you folks to enjoy and be involved in the chat while it's happening as well.
I'm Mya Beaudry. I'm the founder and the CEO of Kokom Scrunchies. I'm 11 years old and I am Algonquin from Kitigan-Zibi.
Amazing. And I'm Kyle St-Amour-Brennan. I am the Indigenous Entrepreneurship Program Manager at Shopify with our Build Native initiative focused on Indigenous entrepreneurship. And I am also Algonquin from Kitigan-Zibi. Maybe to talk about our nation and where we're from, what's something you would say to describe being Algonquin?
It's a big adventure.
It is, yeah, big adventure. Yeah, how far away is the community from like the biggest city?
2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours from Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. It's
Mhm.
one of the bigger cities in Canada. Yeah, and you mentioned your age. I would say that maybe about our nation, we're quite famous for you. I will say you're super famous. We also are famous for birch bark canoes. Also, the best maple syrup ever. But yeah, so where do you live?
I live in Ottawa.
Yeah, so you live in the closest urban area to the community.
Yeah.
Amazing. And that's where you go to school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject in school is math because like I just like love like counting the numbers, and I'm really good in multiplication, and also very important to be able to be counting my scrunchies for inventory.
Yeah. And speaking of your scrunchies, as you mentioned, you run a business called Kokom Scrunchies, and Kokom in our language means grandma. How did you start it, and when did you start it?
So it was actually a fundraiser, and it was for a powwow. And if you don't know what a powwow is, it's where all the native people gather around and then dance. And so there was nothing for like the youth. And and so I wanted to I wanted to host a dance competition for the youth. So I like loved it scrunchies, and I had like cocoa material like from the powwow, and then like put that together. We made cocoa scrunchies. And so like I was just gonna put it in like my basket. And so my mom, I guess, wanted to document my journey. And so she like posted it online, and everyone went like crazy, asking if they wanted to buy it, if it's like for sale. And like I think it was like after the 10th person, like my mom came up to me, and she was like, do you want to like sell like this scrunchie, and then when you make the money you could like buy more material. And so one material equals 6 scrunchies. And in March, using Shopify, March 2020, I started my business.
Amazing. Yeah. So 2 years ago,
Mhm.
almost 2 years ago, you started it. All the scrunchies behind you, do you want to just show one?
Yeah. So this one, it's called Mom, and this one is like I'm pretty sure our second one that we released it. There's 2 that I wanted to show you, and so this one, it's called Our First Love, and it says navy blue. It's because this is the one that we first released it. And this one is called the Kokom Dana, and this is like my favorite one of all times. It's because so Dana is my auntie, and I love her like so much, and she's like she's like a role model to me. And like she like also like I looked up to her of also doing this like special.
Yeah. And then all your scrunchies are named after people that inspire you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like what else inspires you? Is it the people that you've named scrunchies after that has inspired you to do this? Or is it seeing like the happiness that it brings to people, or like people talk about it on Instagram? Or what kind of inspires you to kind of keep making scrunchies?
Like all those things what you just said. I just like love that people will like people just like buy it and then wear it, not just like maybe like some people will just like buy it, wear it like a few days and just like put it away. But like I just like love when people like buy my scrunchies. This is another reason why I love social media, because then like people will send pictures of like they like wearing a scrunchie, and it would make me feel really good because like I'm doing something to like make someone else happy, and like in the pictures they're like always like smiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like on TikTok they would be like super excited to open up the scrunchies. Like I just like love when people like have like a big smile on their face.
Yeah. So your favorite thing is like the reaction that you get from people when they're holding your scrunchies. Yeah, that's amazing. Is that your favorite thing to do? Is the social media thing in relationship to your business?
I have another one. My favorite thing to do is just to like um be like truthful and like just inspire other people, because I feel um like they like I learned a lot of things in these past like 3 years, and I just like want to like inspire others, um like do what they love. um yeah.
Well, you definitely do that. You definitely inspire me a lot. And I know you inspire so many different people to just dream and do the thing that they want to do. One of the things you're talking about was talking about is social media in general. And one of my favorite things about that you do is you do a lot of collaborations with people. You invite a lot of collaborations with people. Do you have a favorite collaboration that you've done?
My favorite would have to probably be the Sister Sage. So the way how this like worked out is we're doing the POW pitch. And so like she won first place and I won third place. And so like we just got in contact because like when we were in the waiting room, we would like talk like about like our business, and like she would just like keep me calm because I was like so like amped up and I was so like excited, and like I was like if I like messed up on one word, like I feel like I would be like screwed. But like she kept me calm, and so like after the POW pitch was done, we got in touch on each other, and then we made a collaboration. um yeah. And
Yeah, Sister Sage sells soap, right?
yeah,
So
soap and bath bombs, and I believe like
yeah,
some sprays.
yeah. Yeah, and I remember I think you made like a scrunchie after them, and it was like, wasn't it a certain color? And then she made like a soap or something that was the same color.
Yeah, it was a bath bomb. It was
Oh
this
yeah,
light blue. It was like this, I think like a baby blue, and it had like these like little flowers on it.
yeah, yeah. No, it was really amazing. Is there any like dream collaboration you've always wanted?
Yes, I actually have some. So my dream collaboration is Sephora, because I think that the brand is like so cool. And Roots, because
Yeah.
they're like the best jogging pants ever. And the Kardashians.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you telling me the story about this one time, and how a lot of the collaborations you do is just by DMing people on Instagram, and you were talking about how you DM'd Beyonce.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was like my favorite story, and I love how you just right people to try to find the right collaborations and stuff. And hopefully if Sephora or Roots hears this, they'll come calling for that amazing collaboration. But what's next? What's coming out soon for Kokom Scrunchies?
Okay, so I love, and when I say love, I mean love, hats. And so I think it's bucket hats. And like I just like love like the feeling where I just put it on me and it's just like it's just like a bucket. And so we're releasing that. So we worked at that on like a few weeks ago. I designed it. And yeah, so I think we're gonna release it in the summer.
In the summer. So look out for those bucket hats to protect yourself from sunburns. Do you have a scrunchie coming out in this week or in a couple of weeks?
Yes, we're probably going to do the Easter scrunchie, because I believe that Easter is on Monday.
Yeah.
And so the Sunday drop is like a day before Monday. So yeah.
So how do people find that? Did they go to your Instagram on Sunday to see what your weekly drop is?
Yeah, and like I post on Instagram like the like Sunday drop, and then I write the like what this mean and like what it's like about, I guess. And yeah.
Amazing. So if people want to find where that drop is, how do they get to your website?
Just search up kokomscrunchies.ca.
Yeah. So KOKOM scrunchies.ca is where they can find all your amazing scrunchies and the incredible array of products that you've made, and hopefully all the future products that you make. Is there anything you want to share with the people that are going to watch this?
No.
Yeah, just check you out on Instagram, and subscribe. Perfect. What's the furthest away somebody's bought your a scrunchie?
England.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I feel like you're gonna find somebody even further away after this buying your scrunchie.
So I do have one question. Who makes them? Where are they made?
So I have a support team, which is I think
Behind the camera.
people. And so it includes like the family in my household, which is 4 people, and then I have like sewers and tires. And so
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Are some of them young people in the community as well then?
Yeah. They're also made in Canada, aka my house.
All right. Well, I edited it down. I had to, Kyle, add a couple that little extra bit at the end there because I was just inspired by that little extra exchange. And we're going to get rid of the screen share here. We're going to get the video going here, but I'm going to be introducing Kyle St-Amour-Brennan with Shopify Build Native, Jessica Bergeron with Operation Hope and the 1 Million Black Businesses Initiative, and Amanda Kiesel with the Good Market. And it's been a pleasure of mine to be able to network with these folks over the recent months and years, and to give them a chance to talk about their initiatives and get them on the stage. So let me stop the share here and get us all up on video. So I'd like to start off with you, Jessica, and have you come on and tell us all about 1MBB.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. That was a really great interview, Kyle. I'm like, typing in as I were. I'm like, okay, what scrunchies am I going to buy? So awesome. Those will be from Atlanta, Georgia, where Operation Hope is headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. So Operation Hope is we're celebrating our 30th year. We're a nonprofit that provides financial education services in credit and money management, home ownership, and small business, and disaster recovery, all at no charge to clients. Our goal is to ensure that clients have access to information that can help them be financially stable. And the 1 Million Black Businesses Initiative was an initiative that was started after COVID, when 40% of Black businesses were decimated by COVID. We were already an underrepresented group of folks who were owned businesses, but after COVID, losing almost half of the businesses, our CEO and founder, John Hope Bryant, said that something really needed to be done. So he created a 10-year initiative in partnership with Shopify. And the goal is to start, grow, and scale 1 million Black businesses and directly target 3 particular areas. Human capital, making sure that people understand and have the education to start, grow, and scale their businesses. Social capital, which is an effort to create communities of support around these business owners. And I believe we have our lead on that. Our 1MBB ambassador, Joanne Massey, is taking the lead in designing community hubs, which are government, public, private, nonprofit hubs that are supporting these business owners. And the third area is access to financial capital, which is one of the largest barriers for Black business owners to actually be able to get access to the financial capital they need. So this initiative, this 1 Million Black Businesses Initiative, offers resources, supports, connections, volunteer, mentorship, education. But a big part of it is about community. So helping people come together, join a community, join a group of people who are doing similar work, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's government, SBA, any organization that recognizes that this is a challenge. So that really is what I want to, leave people with, is the idea that I know that in the work that I've done over the past year with the 1 Million Black Businesses Initiative, the one thing that I've walked away with is that it takes, it truly takes a village, and that there's nothing that we can do alone. So this is not about Operation Hope. This is really about building the network and the community, the circle of folks who are supporting each other, Black entrepreneurs, but also supporting the communities that they're serving, and ultimately being able to pass on generational wealth for Black communities. So thank you again, Stephen, for having me here.
So I have 2 quick follow-up questions. I know you've had some partner meetings, and we've obviously engaged you as a partner, and I really appreciate that opportunity. How does an organization that might want to partner with you, where do they start?
Mm-hmm. So Joanne Massey is our community partner lead. She's our 1 Million Black Businesses ambassador. And she is on here. I can provide her information as well. You can reach out to Bill Fair. He's also on here. And just send an email and get in touch and say, hey, we're interested in partnering as a community organization. So that is, just to share information about 1 Million Black Businesses. There are some resources that we provide to our clients, like I said, like education. There's some discounted services to like.
That's actually my second question was, so imagine, I'm watching this interview and I'm thinking about starting an e-commerce. So I have a product, I'm passionate about it, and I'd like to start selling it. And in this case, I'm a Black-owned business owner, or to be. Where do they start with you?
They can go to operationhope.org/1MBB. And it's really easy to register. There's no requirements for the program except to, identify as a Black business owner. You can be a new business owner with just a seed of an idea, or you can be an established business owner who is looking to connect with other businesses to apply for, a supplier diversity contract. So there's lots of variability in the number of people who are members. From an e-commerce perspective, they can take advantage of a 4-month free trial for Shopify. And Shopify has provided significant financial and educational resources for Black business owners. They also have something called Build Black, which is a network of merchants on Shopify for Black entrepreneurs who have stores. And then, the other piece of it too is the financial education piece. We are committed to ensuring that, many Black business owners are sole proprietors. So a lot of times that means they're spending their own money to start their business. And so we want to make sure that people's personal finance and their business finance are really solid. So that's where clients can take advantage of our other programs like credit and money management to improve their debt, increase their credit score, et cetera. So these are all kind of intertwined for Black business owners. It's not as simple as saying, oh, start this program. There's lots of other factors that are included as part of that. So like I said, really appreciate the opportunity to be here and appreciate being a partner, and anybody who's interested, we will partner with, especially folks who are in this world doing this work. We know we can't do it alone.
Thank you very much. So Kyle, let's talk about Build Native and the initiatives that you work on. And again, by the way, thank you so much for the interview with Mya. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me, Stephen, and thanks for the American Sustainable Business Network for the invitation. And thanks for Mya. It's surprisingly a lot harder to interview an 11-year-old than you would think. It's always fun. Mya, before that interview, I think maybe 15 minutes, had just finished her school day. So it was very much in a different mind frame. So it was awesome to kind of.
She's in school right now. Otherwise, we would have done it live or tried to. But yeah, she's in school right now.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I'm the Indigenous Program Manager for the Build Native initiative with Shopify, which is something that I had sort of worked towards for many a year. I mean, I've been at Shopify for probably about 6 years now. Shopify, funny enough, was headquartered probably 2 hours from the community that Mya and I are both from. It's a fairly small reservation that's probably home to only about 1,000 people, 1,300 people. So a small, tight-knit Anishinaabe community. And with that too, I think when you go to the closest urban area, your economic employment opportunities are fairly limited. So Shopify, will say, as a newfound tech company, is fresh with ideas and quite young. So with that too, it was a lot more my speed per se. So, I mean, coming from an Indigenous community too, you sort of, you sort of grow up with collectivism sort of built into what you're doing and strong sense of community. So a lot of that is really baked into the Build Native initiative, which is, I would say it's similar to 1MBB and Build Black in the sense that it's really focused on providing tools, resources, connections sort of needed to start, run, and grow sort of self-determined businesses. With that too, we're just really focused on trying to reduce barriers to entry into entrepreneurship and really trying to allow people to sort of define their own financial autonomy and future, doing things that they find important and they love, and sort of showing their values based on that. So I sort of say half the job is really about building systemic and community level relationships half the time. And it's really about that we really focus in on. So yeah, a lot of our information is available at buildnative.shop. We have a lot of our initiatives, a lot of the stuff that we have going on there, and then some of the amazing entrepreneurs that we've had the chance to bring into our community and work with all the time, which is incredible. But if anyone's looking to contact, there's also a contact section from there. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I think Mya is a great representation of just one of the many people, somebody who's just like sees a gap in the world and wants to express herself and is really going towards it. And I think that's sort of the beauty of entrepreneurship in general.
So Kyle, one of your Tracy on your team introduced me to Powwow Pitch. Could you say a few things about what Shopify does with Powwow Pitch and what Powwow Pitch is?
Yeah, Powwow Pitch is actually one of my favorite events. It is essentially like the best describer I give is think Shark Tank meets a weekend pitch competition. It's essentially an Indigenous entrepreneur pitch competition that is international now. It started off as a tiny weekend pitch competition at a local urban powwow, and then now has grown to be all of North America, and then hopefully New Zealand soon. But essentially, it's a digital pitch competition where entrepreneurs are able to submit like a 1-minute pitch about their idea of what problems they want to solve through entrepreneurship. And then with that too, they go through a whole entire cornucopia of mentors and judges and go through variable rounds. And then there's ultimately a final and cash prizes and tons of resources for people to hopefully see through their dreams and all the learnings that comes with that.
It's an inspiring project, and I had the chance to chat with them a couple months ago, and hopefully look forward to collaborating with there as well. You mentioned New Zealand, so your Indigenous scope is global, or tell us a little bit more about New Zealand.
Yeah, so the Indigenous entrepreneurship is really focused primarily, I would say, on English-speaking markets that have Indigenous, I guess, prominent Indigenous populations. So with that, you would imagine it's North America, and then I would say like APAC, so Australia and New Zealand. My team is made up of 2 First Nations people, myself and Tracy, who you mentioned earlier, and 2 Maori people, Maori being the biggest Indigenous tribe to New Zealand. So yeah, we focus primarily on those 2 areas.
That's great. I look forward to more about your efforts in our discussion. So Amanda, let's talk about the Good Market. Amanda and I go back a couple of years or more. And Amanda and I have a past life. I did technology for good and community engagement and became an Ashoka Fellow for that. It was quite an honor. And then I looked up Amanda a couple of years ago and discovered that she was an Ashoka Fellow. And so we had a great time connecting in terms of being a social entrepreneur and trying to change things up. And you run a nonprofit, so tell us about Good Market.
Yeah. I just want to start by saying how excited I am to be with all of you. I'm really excited about what Operation Hope and the Shopify Build Native program are doing. And I'm really grateful for what GoodCarts is doing to kind of drive the discussion about impact retail and economic empowerment in e-commerce. So my background is in more organic agriculture, fair trade. I've spent the last 20 years living in Asia. So Sri Lanka has been my home base for the last 20 years. And I've had a chance to be able to work with social entrepreneurs around the world, which has been amazing. And that's kind of, I guess that's the community I'm representing here today. So if you're not familiar, a social enterprise is a business that was founded to solve a social or environmental problem, and that works in a way that puts people and planet over profit maximization, and is mission locked, which means that if the ownership changes or the leadership changes, it still keeps that same core purpose. It's still got the same heart. And there's just this incredible movement coming up around the world. Different parts of the world use different language. Not everybody uses the word social enterprise, but the same core values are there. And the idea with Good Market is to make this movement more visible and to make it easier for all of us to find and connect with each other. Because like Jessica said, we can't do this alone, right? This is very much team effort. And one of the things we've been seeing is that if you run this kind of enterprise, you really want to support and work with others that have the same values. You want your raw materials and your packaging and your service providers to all come from those kinds of groups. And so Good Market's set up, so it's not just limited to people that have physical products. There's a huge mix. There's people that are doing community tourism or business services. There's artists and musicians. There's community initiatives that aren't even, that aren't registered, but they do things, mutual aid, or they do tree planting or things like that. And what that means is we have a community marketplace that includes products, but it also has events and services and vacancies and anything anyone wants to promote. And from that, they can link through to their own website or to other platforms. And I think just probably key to mention that the heart of it is there's a community-owned curation process and crowdsourced monitoring system, and that's free. And the reason for that is we have lots of groups that have third-party certification, and that's great. You know, if you're a B Corp, you're organic certified, fantastic. But that's not fully inclusive. There's just all these amazing startups or, you know, low-income initiatives that are doing great work, but a third-party certification is kind of expensive and maybe doesn't make sense for them, or maybe it's something they want to do in the future. So this is a way to make everybody visible. And the last thing I'll mention is it's really set up to support existing networks and existing community groups. So if there's a group that has, like if your local area or a group that you work with has lots of enterprises, you can have a free version of the homepage for your network that shows your logo, your story, all your community members, and the marketplace for all your community members. And we're in the process of doing more with integrations. So with Shopify, with WooCommerce, with different things. So if people already have an online store, so they can sync to it. So that's kind of the big picture story.
That's great. You know, so GoodCarts is a member of the Good Market. We filled out your survey, all right, or you call it the transparent. It's
a curation process. It's an online form for the curation process.
So I can tell you that. So if you've thought about, well, I'm just starting up, or my online store, my brand is only a year or two old or something. Maybe we'll become a B Corp someday. And try, maybe we're a B Corp, we want to get certified. That's a big, bigger step. But if you go through and fill out Amanda's survey, right? Well, not your systems. I mean, the Good Market survey. Yes, exactly. Sorry, Good Market survey. There's dozens and dozens of questions, and you will learn more about all the good things you are doing or could be doing. So I was pretty fascinated by that. Could you just sort of say, like, is that one of the first things you recommend that say, for example, you're an online retailer and you view yourself as a social enterprise? Is that one of the first things you do when you come to the site, or should do?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, like I said, it's free and it's owned by the community, and it's fully it's transparent. So even if you don't have a business, but you're just curious, you're welcome to sign up, play around with the form. The questions you answer affect the other questions you see. So if you're doing something with food, you'll get more questions about that later. And it's surprised me because usually forms sound like something that people will not want to do. But I found that for a lot of entrepreneurs, I mean, you love the work you're doing. And so this is a chance to kind of think through it and to get you kind of thinking about things you might want to do in the future. So we've had a lot of people say, well, that was actually fun.
I mean, I had to answer questions like, how does your company recycle, right? And we're very virtual company. So like, I recycle, at home we do, it's a home business, or home office, that is. So anyway, I really encourage folks to take a look at that. It's different and unique, and it sort of really adds value to the space. Actually, one last follow-up question. So you do a lot of work with artisans, as I understand that, right? And there's a project, is it called Catalyst 2030? So one of the think about like access to customers. What's happening, or what are you doing in that space to sort of help, artisans get directly to more buyers?
Yeah. So if you think of Good Market as like the enabling infrastructure layer, the networks are the ones that do all the fun social part on top of that. And Catalyst 2030, really cool initiative, worth checking out. It's a collaborative initiative of social entrepreneurs working for systems change. And they have a network of social enterprises that have physical products. And so there's a part of it where they're using Good Market as a tool to kind of increase their visibility. But the part I'm the most excited about is it's also all of these social enterprises coming together to solve shared challenges. So people have issues around logistics. If you're in Asia or Africa or Latin America, sometimes you have problems with how do you deal with shipping? How do you deal with warehousing and order fulfillment? There's things around especially payments. We're getting there where more and more countries have access, but there's parts of the world where it's still really hard to have your products online. So the whole thing with the Catalyst Market Initiative is to increase the visibility, but also how can we collaborate to solve shared challenges that everyone's facing. It's been a lot of fun.
So speaking of challenges, let's go to Jessica and Kyle on that. And we get on the table, just like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see businesses facing that are trying to, grow and expand and get established?
Yeah, I'll jump in and say that I think most business owners, especially underrepresented business owners, would say access to capital is a big challenge. And, many folks face discriminatory practices in lending, and they have, maybe a poor credit history or those kind of things. But one of the bright spots that we found was that there was a lot of community lending happening that wasn't being documented. And so one of the things that we are encouraging our clients to do is to begin documenting their community lending. So for example, we have a large mega church in Atlanta, who's one of our partners, that has a community lending program, and the people get together and donate money into this program. And then as the entrepreneur pays the money back, then that pool of money then goes to the next business owner. And so this was, an innovative idea that really is pretty common in the Black community. But when that business owner goes to apply for a loan, there's no record of what they've paid back, even though they paid back on time and all of that. So we're really trying to change the narrative around community lending and making sure that banks are aware and that clients are aware that they need to keep records through an automated business program or accounting and bookkeeping service, and that banks realize that community lending is a viable and legitimate, precursor to getting a larger bank loan.
Would that typically, like say in that church, maybe that that example specifically, would the entrepreneur meet with like a committee of the group and like kind of have that two-way exchange? Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Kind of like what, the powwow pitch competition is a great example of a resource that the community has come together and put money into it, and they're giving money to an entrepreneur, and that builds the first stage of their business. And as they start looking at the second stages of their business, where they're going to apply for a bank loan or maybe even looking to an investor, they don't want to come up with an empty spreadsheet to say, they want to show those, on-time payments and make sure that they show that financial history. So I think it's true for a lot of communities that this is how they support one another. They support businesses, they support capital. So really what we want to do is make sure that the banks are recognizing that this is a part of how we support our businesses. And so as they grow and they want to start expanding or automating, that they're understanding how this is how they can serve these clients.
So Kyle, what would you like to add to the table, if you will, in terms of the challenges?
Yeah, I would say that there's a lot of intersectionality within in terms of the barriers that are in place. Capital is definitely unilaterally, I think for a lot of underrepresented communities, like, high up towards the top. But I would say that, in reference to powwow pitch and things like that, I think there tends to be a lack of authentic and culturally inclusive sort of context where entrepreneurship could be fostered. So a lot of those components there is sort of like what I talk about a lot is sort of like you have these sort of barriers, which is capital, technological literacy, just technological access in general, especially for Indigenous people. Oftentimes you're in remote locations where there isn't, high-speed internet or satellite internet access or anything like that. So typically, oftentimes that's very tangible problems, and then access to capital is such a mega hard challenge, even from that sense, because the jurisdictional politics that exist between reservations and federal governments and things like that cause a number of other, because essentially a reservation, they don't have collateral to like lend with the bank, so you can't get any lending from that relationship. So only funding has to come from within the community, which is why things like powwow pitch are fundamentally important. But the one component that I tend to add is it's like even more obvious than it seems, which is actually the most fundamental barrier is the self. It's the lack of representation. It's the lack of success stories that you could recognize, and sort of that relativity, and kind of to mention what Amanda was mentioned earlier, which is, you know, across the world and a world in different communities and different cultures, there's essentially different vocabulary. We've sort of made it all one. We've sort of tried to make it very westernized, but oftentimes too, like the word entrepreneurship, I like to say, hasn't gotten to the res yet. It hasn't gotten to a lot of communities. So in that instance, half the times you're trying to find what's the cultural relative to something like that that can convey it in a way that people could feel really inspired and ultimately pursue it. So things like Power Pitch are huge, but half the time it's really just trying to create spaces where people could say, hey, I see that person's lived experience and it's similar to mine. Let me go and try this for my own and take on all the learnings that sort of go with it.
Let me ask, you mentioned tech literacy, and obviously you work with Shopify, and you know, one of the conversations I also had with Tracy on your team was about sort of the democratization of e-commerce. And so, you know, yes, you could sell on Amazon or eBay or Etsy, but like, what's empowering, I guess, about having your own domain name and your own direct customers, and what is Shopify's role in that, in terms of either making it easier or more effective, or, you know, because I think that's, you know, you can have, I've seen a lot of crappy online stores, let's put it that way, right? And so,
I mean,
does Shopify make it better?
I mean, I would say that is really, it's your control over the narrative. It allows you to have the full totality of tooling to share the message you want to share, where like, as long as you don't own the platform or the totality of the thing that you're trying to communicate through, you're really at the whim of someone else. So if you're only using on Instagram or Facebook, ultimately Meta is controlling what you're doing. If Amazon's doing what you're doing, then there's that component there too. And I think that that's the kind of thing that sort of changed, and it's even more accelerated. Like the pandemic is, I think, like pushed technological evolution by 10 years in a matter of 2. You know, there's the expectation that, you know, you have yourself through multiple sales channels to connect as many people as possible. So, you know, Instagram, you know, a website, selling in person at local markets, all those things are all fundamentally important. Where before people were very protective about only doing one of those avenues, now the expectation is you start to do them all. And things like Shopify really help consolidate all that in a way that's like, it allows you to spend less time having to manage businesses in different contexts, and then sort of have it centralized in one place so that you could really focus on doing what you love.
So I have to just interject, you know, GoodCarts works with more than Shopify, but we were doing an article on the ESG, environmental sustainability governance goals of e-commerce companies and their CSR activities. And we're just going to like list them all out and kind of praise e-commerce. And we got done with Shopify, and then basically we found silence from most of the industry. And it kind of surprised me. I figured there actually would be more activities. And so there is something special about, you know, at least as far as I can tell, the commitment that Shopify is bringing to, I guess, change, if you will, and empowerment in this space. So Amanda, let's bring you back on and have you talk a little bit more about, you started with some of the challenges. Actually, I'm going to shift you in now to the next question, which is the next theme is like strategy. So, and there's obviously what you're doing, but maybe there's strategies as a whole. You know, what are the things that can help move the needle on some of these challenges we've been talking about?
Yeah. I mean, I think a theme we've heard quite a bit is about collaboration and community. So I would say that's the strategy that I'm the most excited about. So for example, like same excitement that Kyle mentioned about having a more democratized and distributed e-commerce space where people have their own stories and can say things in their own language and in their own, to their community directly and directly connect. One of the challenges they face is around visibility, right? Then they each are trying to promote their own online store. So I've seen a lot of really exciting things about entrepreneurs supporting each other or cross-promoting each other. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there that I'm really excited about. And also about kind of shaping the narrative about what we mean by impact retail, right? Because we cannot be in a situation where it's like buy more. We're not going to solve problems by buying more stuff, right? We have real environmental issues that we're dealing with. And so I'm seeing a lot of great collaborative work in this space around, you know, the idea of buy less, choose well, make it last, buy from brands that share your values, moving beyond having a transactional relationship where it's one-off to having actually a connection with the online shop or with the business that you're buying from, that you feel a relationship, you're supporting their work. So I'm seeing a lot around collaboration and kind of shifting the narrative that I'm really excited about.
Let's go back to you, Jessica. Obviously you guys have a menu of activities that you're engaged with. We talked about access to capital. You talked about some of the positive things. How about training, or what other kinds of things can move the needle?
Mm-hmm. I think a big part of this is about being open to the fact that we don't have all the answers, but that in that same spirit of what Amanda's talking about around collectivism and community, that there is the opportunity for us to glean the information from the group of people who are working together in doing this work. So Operation Hope is not going to solve the issue of access to capital for Black entrepreneurs. That's not what we can do. We can provide education and training and all of that, but we can't, change history. We can't change discriminatory practices in lending. We can't hit whack-a-mole one by one banks, and it seems like every other week there's a bank in the news that is kind of being called to the table around discriminatory practices. So, but I think that if we are working together around collective solutions, that to me is where like some of these really amazing workarounds have come to the table of saying, instead of trying to get a bank to stop doing this, it's like, okay, what about all of our smaller funders, Kickstart campaigns, all of these things that can work together to provide alternative capital options. And so that to me is one place. And then I do want to piggyback on what Kyle said about technology. That has been a very huge challenge for our population as well. But I think the takeaway for me is about the fact that if I learn how to do something digitally, then that's something no one can take away from me. So even if I open and close a store on Shopify, but I've learned about how to do social media marketing, SEO, I've learned about how to set up my digital store, that's something that I can take with me no matter where I go. And so to me, that is another piece that if we can close the gap around education and technology education and technological literacy, that's something people can take with them anywhere they go. So I'm really looking forward to being able to, continue to work on that issue and engage partners around that to make sure that, we are creating those innovative solutions.
I just did a time check here, so I realize we're coming close toward the end of our hour. So let's see, did we have a question? I think I said one from John.
Yes. So John asked, for Good Market specifically, is there a role for nonprofits that are primarily not businesses with products or services, but rather change agents to be a part of Good Market?
Yep, absolutely. We have a very high percent of those. And many of them are working as, they're organizing networks, or they have other types. You don't have to have a physical product. You don't have to have something that involves money. We have people doing gift economy work, mutual aid, all kinds of services. Yeah.
That's great. Well, before we send everyone who's interested to come join the networking chat afterwards, it's at goodcarts.co/live. We'll put it in the chat. I want to finish up with sort of one last question/theme, if you will. And Kyle, first of all, we were pretty inspired by Mya, right? And I think what really resonated with me was just her passion around her product and the impact that her product has in people's lives. And I can see her having her 5-year vision. I'm guessing is to continue to build on that, right? But I want to ask what your 5-year vision is. Where are we going to be aspirationally in terms of economic empowerment with e-commerce? Where can we be? Where would you like to be?
I mean, a lot of the work is really focused on economic empowerment in areas where access to those things are very challenging. So a lot of the work that we're really hoping to really sort of pioneer or sort of build out is actually creating more economic opportunity for Indigenous peoples to stay within their communities and build it up. I mean, right now, urbanization has really hurt the Indigenous populations of pretty much the world. And then with that too, there's sort of a connection and responsibility towards land and sustainability that's invaluably important. It means so much to Indigenous people to stay in their territories and within their thing, because that's ultimately where language and so much of the kind of focal point of the Indigenous cultural revitalization is based in. So for us, it's really about trying to develop the technological supports and education so that nations could build up their own marketplaces to access world markets and not really have to leave and really stay on the land and continue to protect and fight for the biodiversity that they have a front row seat and have had for thousands of years.
Thank you for that. Amanda, how about your sort of aspirational vision? Where are we going to be in 5 years? Where can we be?
There are many, but maybe specifically to this, we're in a context where there's certain communities that have had more visibility historically. And I think the goal here is, if we're going to solve the problems we're dealing with right now as humanity on this planet, we need everybody's input on that. And that means that we need to have more visibility of all these initiatives that are happening across all communities. And I'm really excited as I'm watching that kind of expand and scale out. I would say most of the social enterprises I know are coming from areas that don't benefit from the current system, because they're the ones experiencing the social and environmental problems, and they're the ones trying to change it. So I'm excited about the potential of e-commerce and other online tools to help make those groups more visible and to help them be able to have more resources going towards the work they're doing.
Thank you, Amanda. And Jessica, to finish us off before I show off, I'm going to show off your links in a minute here. I have another slide to show off, but Jessica, I'd love to hear your aspirations. You have a million Black-owned businesses to work with, right? So how,
we'll be 500,000 in, but 5 years. I mean, I think to be consistent with the theme of this, of what I'm hearing from everyone else is, about changing the narrative of, rather than moving towards, westernization or, moving towards the idea of, using up or consuming and becoming part of that, approach. It's the other way around, where we're looking at building communities and supporting one another and using this collective approach to support our own. And that to me is a very something that I see happening, very rapidly. And the world is, but then at the same time, more connected networks throughout the world of people who are doing similar things. So I think for me, 5 years in, I would love to have a narrative that is about innovative solutions, problem solving, communities that have supported their own communities and challenging the system. And so that to me is going to be where we'll experience this shift away from consumerism into, this different world of collective community.
Well, thank you. It's probably a good chance for me to mention that we have a soft launch of our partnership with 1MBB with our Black-owned circle on GoodCarts. And one of the most inspiring things for me has been talking to the founders of these impact-oriented brands. And so the founders are basically, if you go to goodcarts.co/Black-owned without a hyphen, you'll see the introduction to it. And we already have a couple dozen stores that have joined us. Some of them are going to be sending toward your training. Others are coming from your training. And in this case, it mentioned visibility, Amanda, trying to create that mechanism where they can share that visibility with each other and grow together. And so it's been humbling for me to be part of this discussion today. And I was all misty-eyed a second time when I watched Mya's interview. And just thank you for all the inspiration. And we will have to connect again, in a couple of years here, same panel, and have a recap, see how we're doing. So let me just share my screen again real quick here, and find my slides. Here they are. And all right, so I know there's different URLs to get to different places here. So I know that, Kyle, you mentioned the buildnative.shop is another direct link, but operationhope.org/1MBB, goodmarket.global, shopifyindigenous.com. Follow up on those links. You can learn all about those different projects. And then let's network. So go to goodcarts.co/live. It'll take a couple of minutes for us to get it all opened up. But again, we're just going to hang out. And at the end of the discussion in the networking session, I always offer a live demo of GoodCarts, a little Q&A. And if it's just one of you, that's all we need, right? Just to tell you a little bit more about it. Often it's been more than that, of course. And also GoodCarts does solo events roughly on a monthly basis. Our next one's going to be on brand storytelling. And so you can learn about that at goodcarts.co/events. And then also we announced our solo events on the Impact Retail newsletter, goodcarts.co/impact-retail. We obviously look forward to continue our collaboration with the American Sustainable Business Network. And it's ASBN or ASBnetwork.org. Is that right, Felicity?
Yep, that's it.
All
and
right,
I put a link in the chat too.
They have a great newsletter. I think many of you now will receive that newsletter having come to this event. And they really are helping push policy particularly in North America, United States, from the perspective of sustainably framed businesses in our country. So really love the work that they do. So Felicity, do you have any final wrap-ups that we need to do, or are we good?
We're good. You covered it all, Stephen.
All right. Well, let me see if I can unshare. I lost my ability to show my face again. Where'd it go? All right. Well, say goodbye to all of you in darkness. Maybe there you can see me. Thank you very much, panel. And thank you for the questions. I look forward to networking next. Bye now.
Bye.